Well, the Buffalo Bills 4 years into a 5-year in Toronto experiment that started back in 2008. They've yet to win a game here north of the border. A pleasure to welcome in along the sideline Pam Oliver.
Well, both teams putting their best foot forward despite having some terrible injury situations. Chan Gailey says we're a team of character, and he believes that will help Buffalo respond. Redskins quarterback John Beck does not want injuries on his side of the ball to impact how they come out. The bottom line is a bunch of new faces will have opportunities today. Back to you.
Pam, thanks so much. Washington has won the toss, selected to receive. Mike Shanahan in his second season in the nation's capital. His 155 regular season wins, the 15th most in the history of the NFL. And Chan Gailey, and now his second year as a Buffalo head coach. They started last year 0-8, went 4-4 over their final 8, and off to the 4-2 start this year. They've only had one winning season since '99 in Buffalo. Of course, you had a chance, Troy Aikman, to play for Chan Gailey as head coach of the Cowboys. Took you guys to the playoffs a couple of times.
He did. The 2 years he was in Dallas in '98 and '99, both playoff seasons for us. However, we failed to win a playoff game, and he didn't last much longer than that.
Brandon Banks waiting on the kickoff, and he'll take it 5 yards in the end zone. Takes a knee, and it is a touchback. That ball nearly crossed the goal line. Now the Redskins, led by John Beck, who had not started a game since his rookie year in the NFL in 2007 with Miami until last week.
He comes in last week, and actually for a guy who was making his first start in 4 years, I thought he did some nice things. But in the first half of that ball game, they were able to get the running game going, and so it really wasn't until the second half that he started to settle in and throw the ball with a little more effectiveness.
Coming out throwing on first down, lays it off to Gaffney. Makes a pretty nice move and steps out of bounds after a gain of 5 on first down. For Buffalo, they lead the NFL in takeaways defensively. They have 16 of them already, but boy, they have given up a pile of yards.
Well, the takeaways have really been what has saved not only this defense but really this team, because after week 1 against Kansas City, everybody has moved the football against them. In fact, 4 of the last 5 teams that they have played have gone for 450 yards or more. That's a lot of offense.
Handed off to Dante Stallworth. And a real nice play in the open field made by Spencer Johnson. That'll bring up third down for the Redskins.
You know, Kyle Shanahan is the offensive coordinator for the Washington Redskins, and in talking with him, the Redskins, like a lot of teams in this league, they'll script the first 15 or 20 plays. The Redskins do 15. They want to be balanced, both running the ball and passing the ball. But Kyle definitely wanted to get John Beck into more of a rhythm early in this game, something they were unable to do last week.
Hit as he throws, and incomplete. He had an eye on Terrence Austin and took a big hit, did Beck, from Arthur Moats. There are a lot of backups, especially in the linebacking core, that get a lot of playing time here today for Buffalo. They lost Sean Merriman for the year with an Achilles injury. So guys like Danny Batten, Kelvin Shepard making his first career start here today as Rocca puts a foot on it. Great punt. Looked like Spiller stepped out of bounds. Still on his feet. And he's dragged down to the 19-yard line. So here comes Ryan Fitzpatrick. He'll turn 29 at the end of November. A 7th round draft pick by St. Louis in 05. Spent 2 years there. Went to Cincinnati for 2. And then came to Buffalo to back up Trent Edwards. He's a starter for a long time now.
Well, I thought what was interesting is, as he said, that this was the first time he's gone into a season being the man. You know, and not only is he the man, but the organization feels that he's the guy as well. As you said, coming into this game, I mean, he's got a new contract, $59 million worth, signed this week.
What a play behind the line of scrimmage by the rookie out of Purdue, Patrick Ryan Kerrigan.
You can see Ryan Kerrigan, they just are really unable to block him. They're going to try to kick him out, but he's able to get penetration in the backfield and make a key stop then on Fred Jackson before he was able to get anything going.
Loss of 2, 2nd and 12. That was read beautifully right from the start by the 3-time Pro Bowler D'Angelo Hall. Redskins trying to get back to good health, especially in the secondary. Matagwe comes back to play. He's from Windsor, Ontario, Canada.
Yeah, this defense, I think that overall for the season, they've been pretty good. They're certainly effective rushing the passer. They're especially good on this down right here. And the reason is, like now, 3rd and long, this team has a lot of them. That's why they lead the league getting off the field on 3rd down.
3-man rush. Catch, but denied first down yardage is Stevie Johnson, so it's 3 and out on the Bills' first possession of the game.
Yeah, even that, you know, for the Bills to come out and complete a pass, they're on 3rd down, but to complete it short of the first down line, something's wrong there. I mean, either the receiver's got to get a little bit deeper or Ryan Fitzpatrick's got to go somewhere else with the ball. But to go back to my point, Chan Gailey was talking about it, saying you look at the 3rd down reel of the Washington Redskins defensively, about half of them are 3rd and long. So they were really trying to avoid the 3rd and long down and distances, as everybody does. But the first one, they were unable to.
Won by Brian Moorman and Brandon Banks from the 28-yard line. Pretty good return of nearly 10 yards. So Fitzpatrick and the Bills. 3 and out to start it. No score early on.
Fox is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com.
Welcome back to Toronto. The roof is closed here today. Well, I think most teams around the NFL, especially north of the Mason-Dixon line, would be loving playing on a day like today.
A little surprised they didn't open the roof here. Beautiful outside.
Ryan Terrain, his first carry, and picks up 2. The Redskins so depleted. 5 of their opening day starters are not in the lineup here today. Their leading rusher in Hightower, their second leading receiver in Santana Moss.
I don't know that I've ever seen anything quite like it. I mean, you look around the league and certainly there's people that are going down each and every week, but the number of players that they have had go down here in the last 2 weeks, key players offensively, has really been staggering.
Terrain again behind that left side of the offensive line, which is missing. Saw the names a moment ago, both their starting left guard and their original starting left tackle Trent Williams.
Oh yeah, you know, you think about for John Beck, as we talked about, to get your opportunity last week and then to have your second start here in 2011 and to be without your #1 tailback, your #1 wide receiver, and then Chris Cooley, of course, hasn't been himself throughout the year. But those are some pretty key players, along with the shuffled deck along that offensive line.
Blitz coming. Beck gets it away, but just short, it appears, on the 3rd down catch is Terrence Austin. Where they're spotting it right now, it looks like they're about a half a yard short. Of course, Mike Shanahan a couple of times already this year has gambled on 4th down, including last week right around midfield. He's not going to do it on 4th down here.
Yeah, I think this is the right call. I mean, as much as he wants to go for it, you just can't do it. And it was just a good stop there defensively by Buffalo, because John Beck put the ball right where it needed to be for Terrence Austin, but there was just no run after the catch.
Waka, end over end, and a fair catch by Spiller right at the 15. So a second chance on offense for Buffalo when we return. Well, we understand there was a flag on the far side of the field
ineligible man downfield, kicking team number 56. 5-yard penalty added to the end of the play. First down, timeout.
So Buffalo now will get it instead of the 15 at the 10.
Today's game is sponsored by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here we go.
This is one spectacular city here in Toronto along the shores of Lake Ontario. Mentioned earlier, one more year to go on this agreement for the Buffalo Bills. They play 5 regular season games here over a 5-year time frame, 3 preseason games. And they've lost their first 3 here. Trying to get a win today. First down the middle of the field. And it's caught by David Nelson. He took a big hit and somehow hung on.
Yeah, well, David Nelson, that's really where he's pretty good, is work in the middle of the field in the seam routes. You're going to see him come into your picture on the left-hand side, and the little move here he puts on London Fletcher. Now remember, London Fletcher, there was question as to whether or not he was going to be able to play in this game today because of a hamstring injury. Obviously, he's not at full strength, but a good little move there by Nelson, giving himself the separation to allow Fitzpatrick to lay it in.
Boy, he cradled that pass up against his hip with his left hand. Close to a 7-yard pickup on first down for Fred Jackson. Both you and I were looking forward to seeing Fred Jackson play in person. It's a remarkable story, all that he's been through to get to this point in his career, and he's become one of the more dynamic and versatile running backs that maybe a lot of people have never seen or heard of.
Well, you know, the question on him was that, well, he's not a guy who can go the distance, you know, but yet we've seen him go 80 yards for a touchdown. In fact, every single week you put on any film of theirs and you see him going for 20, 25, 30-yard touchdown runs. I mean, he's really an exceptional player.
Well, he finds daylight and has a first down to the 35.
And some of his runs, in fact, most of his big runs have really come right in that area of the offensive line, right between the tackles. And Chan Gailey said, hey, I've never really coached a running back like this guy. He had Jerome Bettis in Pittsburgh, obviously Emmitt Smith in Dallas, but neither of those guys could you split out. Fred Jackson, as you see here, he's splitting out. He has already a few times in this ball game, and they will throw him the ball.
Well, obviously he's their leading rusher. He is their 3rd leading receiver. Nelson again sitting down in the middle of the field. And forward progress will spot it right at the 30-yard line.
Going back to Fred Jackson, he's a lot like a number of these players on this team in that he was undrafted. And they have one wide receiver, Stevie Johnson, who was drafted in the 7th round. Everyone else is undrafted at the wide receiver position. Chan Gailey was asked about the fact that Mike Shanahan was their first choice as head coach. He said, hey, I'm okay with that. We got a lot of guys like that. He said, I feel right at home with these players.
They give it to Jackson. And he's trying to pick up an extra yard or two. LaRon Landry healthy again. There to make the stop. It'll bring up 3rd down.
Never seen anything quite like this here, Tom. You got the wedding ring on. I certainly never wore mine when I was playing. I've never known a player to wear his wedding ring. That might be a new thing after he signed that big contract this week. His wife wanted to make sure everyone knew he was taken.
Well, they go to the Wildcat formation and bring in Brad Smith, and he'll run it. And he'll run it for a first down to the 22-yard line. Very valuable pickup is Smith, coming over from the New York Jets. Did a lot of good things for that franchise and doing good things now in Buffalo. Jackson again. And he's inside the 20.
This It's a nice drive right here by Buffalo and mixing it up a little bit. And I think that's, you know, really when you talk about this team and how they've gotten to this point, the things that they have done well is they run the ball very, very well, and they don't beat themselves. They don't turn the ball over a whole lot. Certainly they do on the defensive side of the ball. And then most importantly, as you see, when they get into the red zone, most of the time, like they lead the league, most of the time they come away with touchdowns.
Hold. Good.
Good protection. And the catch is by Chandler. Did he get in? It's a touchdown. Scott Chandler, his 5th receiving touchdown of the year.
Yeah, see if he got in. He certainly did. He was able to get the ball inside the pylon, and he stayed inbound. So that will be a touchdown. Nice route by Scott Chandler. Not overly fast, but he's been a bit of a surprise in what he's been able to do in the passing game. He runs a corner route. It looked like Rocky McIntosh maybe lost him in coverage because of the route combination, and he's able to go to the corner and make the catch for the touchdown.
Only New England's Rob Gronkowski has more receiving touchdowns among tight ends in the NFL this year than Chandler. He's one away from tying the Bills franchise record for touchdowns by a tight end in a season. Fitzpatrick and the Bills lead 7-0.
Today's game is sponsored by Pizza Hut. Right now, get any pizza for just $10 only at your Pizza Hut. By Verizon 4G LTE, America's fastest, most reliable 4G network. And by the all-new Volkswagen Passat. That's Das Auto.
Get a look at Casa Loma. That's where Troy Aikman stayed here over the weekend. A 100-year-old castle, a landmark in Toronto. More than 350,000 visitors a year come to visit the castle, but no one stays there like Sir Aikman.
Yeah, well, I didn't stay there. Where did you stay? I didn't even see you this weekend.
Boy. Here's Grant Bennett. And he is smothered at the 14-yard line. Yes, indeed, Fitzpatrick and Chandler get one more look at that scoring strike. Seven nothing Buffalo. 5:07 to play here in the opening quarter from Toronto.
Whoa! Lasso!
The tight end, Fred Davis, and that's a reception up to the 21.
We'll go back and take a look. You can see David Nelson on the outside and then Scott Chandler at the tight end position. Good combination here on the route. And because of that, when he goes to the corner, they turn him loose. London Fletcher was actually the only guy who could have gotten underneath that route. That's just simply the hole within that zone coverage. And the Bills were able to exploit it.
Crossing pattern again by the tight end Davis, and that's good enough for a first down for the Redskins up to the 27. So progress from the first two possessions by the Redskins offense.
Good job there by John Beck, just sliding in the pocket. Of course, Buffalo defensively, they have not been able to get after the quarterback. Only 4 sacks on the season. Haven't gotten a great deal of pressure on the quarterback through their first 6 games, but that time they were able to block the throwing lanes. He slid and was able to find Davis.
Give it back to Ryan Terrain, and maybe a couple of yards. Terrain started 8 games last year, played in 10, and rushed for better than 740 yards. Broke his hand during training camp, and when they made the deal for Hightower, he lost his job as a primary back. He's had one big game this year, 135 yards against St. Louis, but has been virtually unused the last 2 weeks.
Well, he's a big physical downhill runner. That was a knock on him, you know, because of the injuries he had earlier in his career. The question is, can he remain healthy? You talk about the injury during training camp, but they're going to need him the rest of the way now.
Play fake it to Halou. And lots of running room, and then he dropped the ball. And lucky to cover it back up.
Boy, he had good protection too, Tom, and he just couldn't find Jabbar Gaffney because Gaffney's going to be running a deep crossing route, and he was wide open. The only guy who was going to be able to make a play on him was Jarris Byrd, and like I said, John Beck had time to find him and deliver a pretty good play. Couldn't see him, and then he fumbled the ball coming out of the pocket.
3rd and 8. Blitz coming. Beck gets it away and finds the open receiver this time right at midfield. That's the first career catch for Leonard Hankerson, the rookie out of Miami.
Yeah, Leonard Hankerson, what a difference a week makes, right? You know, last week he got in that ball game against Carolina for one play, his first play, his first NFL play, and there was a miscommunication between him and John Beck, and it resulted in an interception. They took him out of the game. And he comes right back this week and makes a pretty good first down catch.
Back to the ground with terrain. And he's to the 45-yard line. If you look at the quarterbacks today, John Beck and Ryan Fitzpatrick, they grew up right down the road from one another in Mesa, Arizona, just outside of Phoenix. 1 year separation in class and in age. Played football, swam against one another growing up.
This Fitzpatrick was, or Ryan Beck, excuse me, John Beck was the better swimmer.
Looking for the home run ball to Hankerson and well overthrown.
Say you talk about these two guys growing up competing against each other. Both of them were swimmers. I guess John Beck was the better swimmer. I think right now Ryan Fitzpatrick has the better beard. What do you think?
You might be onto something there. You're really going out on a limb. Eighth play of the drive. It's a 3rd down. Intercepted. Leotis McKelvin almost had his 2nd pick of the season, and the Redskins will punt it.
Yeah, that was almost danger, and it wouldn't have been John Beck's fault because the receiver kind of let up on him, and Beck was leading him as man coverage, and the receiver, I guess, thought it was zone and started to throttle it down, and they were fortunate to avoid an interception on that play.
End over end punt by Rocket. A fair catch at the 13-yard line. 32-yard punt. Bills with the ball and the lead. Well, some of the early game headline acts around the NFL. Eli Manning bringing the Giants back late to beat Miami. Steven Jackson, perhaps the biggest stunner of the day in the Rams' first win of the year. It comes at home over New Orleans. Jackson healthy again. What a back he is. And Ray Rice, another team that had to rally late to win. Baltimore over Arizona.
Yeah, a lot of those teams, as you said, they had to come from behind. A lot of those games we thought would be fairly easy games. But yeah, the stunner was the Rams taking on the Saints the way they did.
Jackson breaks a tackle on 1st down and carries up to the 16-yard line. Of course, the Buffalo Bills are playing inside the same division as two of the heavyweights over the last couple of years. New England has been the bellwether franchise certainly for a long time. New England playing in Pittsburgh today. Buffalo trying to get back to the playoffs. It's been an 11-year drought.
Yeah, and Buffalo Bill fans certainly understand the importance of that game a few weeks ago when they were able to come back and beat the New England Patriots.
You'll be saying Fred Jackson's name a lot today. That'll be the final play of the opening quarter. Fox NFL Sunday returns after these messages. And a word from your local Fox station. Every weekend is Halloween weekend for Corey McIntyre. Take a look at that look.
That's a good look. He does that a lot, I guess. It's not just for Halloween.
Yep. 318. 319.
Set to begin the second quarter. Fitzpatrick throws on first down, and a catch made by Stevie Johnson to the 30.
Hey, you know, Stevie Johnson is the guy who Fitzpatrick has the most confidence in. He says, hey, when he's one-on-one, I'm going to him. It doesn't matter if D'Angelo Hall or anyone else is covering him. And in fact, Ryan Fitzpatrick talked about this receiving core, and he said that it's the most comfortable and the most confident he's been in the receivers of all the receivers he's ever had, no matter where he's been. And he was in St. Louis when they had Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, and of course in Cincinnati with Chad Ochocinco and TJ Houshmandzadeh. So that's a real compliment to these guys that, as I said, most of them undrafted.
Ball on the ground, and the Redskins have it. That is the first lost fumble this entire year by the Buffalo Bills. Covered up by Brian Orakpo.
You can tell exactly what happened if the ball didn't come all the way up, or he just lost it once he got the exchange. But you know, clearly he was never able to come away with the ball from center, and that's something that you just don't see a lot of. In fact, the Bills had not lost a fumble coming into this game. The only team in the NFL, and boy, they didn't pick a good place on the field to lose their first.
We'll see if the Redskins can take advantage of that turnover. Terrain muscles his way inside the 30, down to the 25, and let's check in back in Los Angeles with Kurt Menefee.
Patriots and Steelers, looks like it might be a good one, you think? Pittsburgh opens it up with an 11-play drive. Llewellyn Moore, 5-yard touchdown reception from Ben Roethlisberger, and the Steelers strike first, 7-0. Tom, Troy, and Pam.
Well, that's a tough place to go win a game. And a big start for Roethlisberger.
Well, two teams that certainly know each other very well.
Terrain again. Denied first down yardage. Third down coming up. The Redskins need a conversion on third down.
Yes, they do. And you look at, you know, the Washington Redskins this year. You know, they've struggled in a lot of areas, but they have struggled coming away with touchdowns, you know, when they've gotten down in this area of the field. But to be handed the ball to them with such great field position, to come away with anything less than a touchdown will be a real disappointment.
Double pump, and then throws a strike in there on a third down conversion to their leading receiver in his fourth season out of USC, Fred Davis.
Yeah, and Fred Davis was was Beck's third choice. Looks like he might have banged his thumb because he had pressure in his face. He's going to work to the front side. To his right is where he was wanting to go with the ball. Good coverage. Comes right back. Will Montgomery, the left guard, he gets shoved right back into Beck's face. And as he comes through with his hand, you see the thumb there. That happens a lot. I got a big knot on my right thumb from hitting it enough times on a helmet, not enough to break it. But that's that could create a real problem with his throwing.
He fakes it one way, rolls the other, and the sack. That's only 5 of them this entire year for Buffalo. First man there was Moats, and Nick Barnett, the former Packer, there to finish him off.
Yeah, and Beck, you know, they're going to move the pocket. They're going to go with some play action. You see he's still checking out that thumb, giving him a little bit of problems. But when you do move the pocket like that, you know, taking a sack is not something that you're anticipating.
Roll, sink! Roll, sink!
Throws, and you wonder if it's that thumb that had anything to do with that. He had a wide open Anthony Armstrong coming across the middle.
Yeah, he keeps kind of grabbing that thumb a little bit and working with it some. I think it's bothering him, certainly. You know, in talking with Kyle Shanahan, I asked him about Beck's accuracy. I thought last week he missed some throws that he should have been able to make. He said he's kind of a streaky quarterback, that he'll get hot, and when he's hot, he's as accurate as anybody in the game. But there are those times when he's not throwing the ball with great accuracy. But it would seem to me that right now that thumb's giving him a little bit of problems.
The Redskins are going to spend a timeout before this third down, and Beck's still looking down at that right thumb. The medical staff will take a peek as well after this.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Sprint. All football, no limits. Only from Sprint. By Frost Brewed Coors Light, the world's most refreshing beer. And by the Ford F-150, the only truck available with EcoBoost.
Well, after the fumble by Buffalo, Washington with great field position starting this drive at the Bills' 31. But now they face a third down and 16. All-out blitz, and Beck is taken down. Off from the secondary was Jairus Byrd. The Bills have half the number of sacks in this game that they had the entire year coming in.
Jairus Byrd right here. He's going to come on the blitz. I don't know if Beck thought that Roy Halou was going to pick that up, but Halou goes out into the route. Had Beck been working that side and got the ball to Halou, there was nobody then in coverage on him, but it looked to me like that was a hot route, and Beck just didn't anticipate it, didn't see it, and then took the hit.
Graham Gano from 49 yards away, and it's blocked. Marcel Darius got a paw on it. The Redskins come up empty. Well, both Marcel Darius and Spencer Johnson were there. It looked like Spencer Johnson may have actually blocked it.
Yeah, certainly the inside push there by Darius, but Spencer Johnson, it looked like he might have been the guy who actually got the hand on it, but that's just a great job defensively as well as there on the last down on the field goal attempt to not give up any points after the Redskins having that kind of field position is impressive.
Of course, Alex Carrington blocked the field goal just last week against the New York Giants. So 7-0 under 11 minutes to play until halftime. London Fletcher there on the stop. Boy, the Redskins have certainly spent more on players through the years, but they have never spent more wisely than when they convinced Fletcher to leave Buffalo in 2007 and come play for the Redskins.
Well, great leader, and then I think the best thing you can say about a guy is that he shows up to work each and every week. And a lot of people wondered whether he'd be able to play this week, as I said, but I think those within the organization probably knew he'd be out here today.
Today is 170th consecutive start. Looking for Spiller. There is contact, and the flag is thrown. Josh Wilson there in coverage on Spiller. Spiller can run.
He's probably the fastest guy on the field. He's certainly
defense number 26. Automatic first down.
He's certainly the fastest player for the Bills, and that's why they like him. They moved him out to wide receiver a couple of weeks ago, and you see the contact made by Josh Wilson. That's very tough on a defensive back when a ball is somewhat underthrown. And you see Spiller, he kind of turned around and got a hand on Josh Wilson as well. But Wilson never turned around to try to play the ball.
So the penalty covers 34 yards. And Jackson from the 24. Met right at the line of scrimmage. It was Kerrigan coming down to meet him. Take a peek ahead as the NFL season on Fox moves on next week. Pre-game show brought to you by Built Ford Tough. Gets underway at noon Eastern, 9 Pacific. 49ers against these Redskins. Cowboys will host Seattle. Buccaneers against the Saints. Troy, you'll be back with your regular partner, Joe Buck. America's Game of the Week, the Giants and the Patriots. Brian Billick and I will be in San Diego for the Packers and the Chargers. Through the hands of the intended receiver, David Nelson.
David Nelson, he did a nice job on the route, just getting himself open, just failed to make the catch. But boy, he's a big wide receiver for them, and we've already seen some of the plays that that he's been able to make. And right there, a well-thrown ball by Ryan Fitzpatrick. I had a chance to meet him on Friday at practice, and he introduced himself and said, please do not refer to me as a tight end. I guess because of his size, and the things that he does, which is really a compliment to him. He does a lot of the dirty work with blocking inside. A lot of times people confuse him for being the second tight end.
Screen to Jackson. And what a tackle made in the open field by Kieran Fox. Fox been around a long time. That's a nice play.
That sure was, because not many guys have been able to make tackles like this year against Fred Jackson. It looked like if he had been able to get past Fox, then he likely is going to pick up that first down for him. So good tackle by Fox.
So now Ryan Lindell will come on for what will be a 37-yard field goal try.
Guy's pretty automatic from 40 and under.
He's only missed 3 of his last 92. 3 of his last 93.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Visa. More fans go with Visa.
Okay, look at pictures from the National Hockey Hall of Fame right here in Toronto. That's definitely not a Hall of Fame hockey player, Jake Jolivet, who hails from Cincinnati.
Pretty good slap shot right there. I just don't know how good he is on the ice.
There's that picture of Wayne Gretzky as a little boy. He grew up about an hour outside of Toronto in Brantford, Ontario. There's Brandon Banks. And not much room there. He's up to the 15, stopped by Corey McIntyre. Almost looked like for a moment there he's going to throw the ball.
Yeah, it sure did. You're going to see him. I mean, he's a left-hander apparently, because he's got the ball like he's going to pull up and throw it. And on the other side of the field was Niles Paul, who's got some real speed. So they set up the wedge there, and then he looks, and there was a guy out there with Niles Paul, but had the Bills not have been ready for that, yeah, that would have gotten pretty interesting.
Stupid, buddy.
Beck fakes it one way, rolls the other, chased by Johnson, drops it off to his fullback, Darrell Young, for a couple of yards. Well, this November, Fox Sports steps into the Octagon, an epic heavyweight title fight. #1 ranked contender in the world, Junior Dos Santos, taking on undefeated world champion Cain Velasquez. Saturday, November 12th on Fox, a heavyweight championship of the world.
Hey, 55.
Better make sure you got that right. The Octagon.
I've been told.
Into double coverage. Anthony Armstrong incomplete.
Well, they're fortunate that that's all that was, because they had just determined that they were going to take a shot down the field to Anthony Armstrong and try to get him deep, but the Bills had a middle safety, really no chance of completing that pass. I think, here in this first half, you got to be pretty pleased, the Bills do, with what they've been able to do defensively. A defense that came into the game second worst defense in football in terms of total yards given up, but again, the Redskins trying to attack this defense that has been so porous through 6 games with a number of players that aren't on the field.
Washington 2 of 6 on 3rd down, and sacked for the 3rd time in the game is Beck. Marcel Darius gets his 2nd sack.
I think a lot of what we've seen in terms of the pressure that John Beck has had has really been a result of some pretty good coverage overall on the back end, because Marcel Darius, he just kept playing, and Beck was unable to get outside the pocket, and he's able to then make a play.
Darius, their #1 pick this year out of Alabama, started every game to begin his career. Here's Spiller, #1 pick from a year ago. And a pretty good return up to the 45-yard line. 7:15 to play. Until halftime, the Bills dominating thus far on defense. 10-0 Buffalo in front. 7:15 to play until halftime. This Redskins team began the year at 3-1. And the defense gave up 20 points in the first half, but that's all they would allow the rest of the game in a loss to Philadelphia. And they really got run over by Cam Newton in Carolina last week. Quick slant on first down. And a catch made by Spiller, and he has the first down to the 44-yard line. You know, we talked about Chan Gailey. Last year they began the year, his first season as head coach with Buffalo, 0-8. They went 4-4 the rest of the way. And I brought up earlier, you had 2 years playing for Chan Gailey. 1 year you guys won an AFC or NFC East division title, went to the playoffs 2 years in a row.
Yeah, and I think those years, you know, we were really on the decline. We had a bunch of aging veteran players that had accomplished a lot. But I think overall, when you look at those 2 years that Chan had in Dallas, he did a really nice job. As you said, we made the playoffs both years, and that was probably an accomplishment in itself, him getting the most out of what we had during that time. In fact, Jerry Jones has even said it was one of his biggest mistakes was letting Chan go after just 2 seasons. But I know they're real fortunate, and they are glad to have him here in Buffalo. When you look at what he was able to do, especially last year at 0-8, as you said, and then to finish 4-4, and he's got these players really believing in what they're doing, and that's a big part of coaching.
That's a first down catch made by Stevie Johnson. Well, he told you a couple of days ago he thought the way they finished up last year, the changes they made during this offseason, that they had a chance to be pretty good this year.
Yeah, he did, and considering how they finished up last year, not to have that offseason, how then were they going to be able to come back and put it all together? But I think they were able to carry that momentum that they had gained from the end of last year, and obviously have had some really nice wins here in the early going.
380! 380 hard! Mike 5-2! Bro. 215! 215!
Jackson spun down at the 15-yard line. There is a penalty flag in the backfield. This one may come back.
Holding, offense number 60. 10-yard penalty, first down.
That's right guard Craig Urbick. You're going to see him here on the pull. Scott Chandler also is able to lead the way, and yeah, I don't know about much of a hold there. He got high and he wasn't able to get underneath the pad level, but that was a big nice hole there for Fred Jackson to have it called back.
Boy, they've got some major league beef along this offensive line for Buffalo.
They've had to shuffle it up a little bit too. They've had now their third starter at left tackle, kicking Andy Levitri from left guard out to left tackle for this game.
There's their main man, Demetrius Bell. They hope to have back soon. That's Smith on the screen. Gets some of the yardage back down to the 31.
You're talking about Chan Gailey and our visit with him on Friday, and one of the other things he said, Tom, was when I asked him about Ryan Fitzpatrick, he said, well, I'll tell you, he's the smartest quarterback I ever coached. So as my producer Richie Zion said, that was low-hanging fruit. I kind of teed him up for that one, didn't I?
Yes, you did. And if you're wondering, he's out of Harvard. He has an economics degree out of Harvard.
And you don't need a Harvard degree to know the economics on $59 million is pretty good.
No, you're right about that. Second down, they pitch it to Jackson. He runs into Barry Cofield among others. Bringing up a third down. Let's go downstairs to Pam Oliver.
Well, hey, Tom, noticing Fitzpatrick going to that wristband a couple of times already. He said he really likes it, only goes to it when he can't quite blurt out the play or if the headset goes out a time or two. Back to you.
I'd never used a wristband like that until Chan Gailey became the head coach there in Dallas in '98, and it really does kind of simplify things, because when the headsets are working, you just give him a number, and then he looks to the wristband and goes with it, and then if the headsets go down, then you're able to just signal in a number. So it really minimizes the amount of communication that's required.
Third down, and it's a first down inside the 10. And the native of Buffalo, Naaman Roosevelt, on the receiving end.
Well, you knew that Ryan Fitzpatrick knew exactly where he was going with the ball. He's trying to work the safety over the top and then coming back to the inside to Naaman Roosevelt. And it's a nice route by the young man. Had a big touchdown reception a few weeks ago. Chan Gailey, I think he says this about all the guys, but he said, you know, he's local, as you said, and he came out, we tossed him a helmet, and we put him on the field. He's done a pretty good job.
Broken up down near the goal line. Johnson, the intended receiver. One out of bounds by London Fletcher. Boy, Fletcher, a guy 36 years old, grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, played at John Carroll University. He still moves pretty well.
Well, he sure does. And right now, this is a big third down right now for the Washington Redskins defensively, because as we've seen, offensively, they're having some problems. They're not taking advantage of some of the things other teams have been able to against the Bills defensively, and they can ill afford to go down 3 scores going in here at halftime.
That takes us down to the 2-minute warning. So a 3rd and goal upcoming for Buffalo. Now London Fletcher's defense looking for a 3rd and goal stop here in the final 2 minutes of this second quarter, trailing 10-0. And Fletcher delivers a stop with an interception in the end zone.
See, London Fletcher, he's going to be in the middle, and he just kind of works underneath it. You see the contact at the top of the route, and Fitzpatrick expecting then the receiver to win on the route, and he's unable to cross Fletcher's face. That's just a heck of a play right there by London Fletcher.
First interception inside the red zone this season by Ryan Fitzpatrick. So now in a 2-minute offense, we'll see what Beck can do. Pump fake, looking around, and slides his way up to the 28-yard line. Redskins have 2 timeouts left.
You go back to that defensive stop. We saw the Bills do it, you know, earlier in the first half with the turnover and then blocking the field goal attempt. But you know, for the Redskins, not only not to give up a touchdown, but to not give up 3 points. That's a big takeaway defensively.
Beck is sacked again, this time by Dewan Edwards. 4th sack of the game. Buffalo had 4 all year through the first 6 games.
Yeah, they hadn't been able to get much pressure, you know, at all throughout this season. And, you know, George Edwards, the defensive coordinator, talked about the importance of being able to get after John Beck and helping out the coverage on the back end. And they've been able to do that. They've had pressure now in this half. They've been able to get the takeaways, or excuse me, the sacks. But there's George Edwards, the defensive coordinator, who knew they were going to have to be able to do something to generate some pass rush, but they've been able to get it. We've seen them bring some pressure with some extra players, but we've also seen that defensive front do a pretty good job.
They're down at 10 after the timeout. They set up the screen to Halou. And he stopped short of the first down. So now Buffalo has 3 timeouts left, and they're going to spend one of them here.
Chan Gailey was right there along the sideline, and as soon as the ball was down, he was grabbing the official and signaling to him timeout, which with 1 minute and 13 seconds left and 2 timeouts, he wants to give that offense another shot at this thing.
Well, coming up, it's a Visa halftime report. Kurt, Terry, Howie, Michael, and Jimmy tell you about the Rams upset of the Saints, what's going on in the Steel City, the Patriots and the Pittsburgh Steelers.
We see John Beck going over and talking with Kyle Shanahan, and the frustration again that he must feel. The injuries up front, and then so many key offensive guys not on the field.
Punted out of bounds by Rocca. We'll see where they spot it. Right at the 20. Let's go back to 1995. This is John Madden.
Look up there, it's closed. I'm going to push this button right here. Watch it. It just says open. It's simple. But I'm going to push it, and now the thing's going to open. I just took control. That thing's opening up. Now we got a story here.
Oh, the great John Madden. That was a preseason game in '95, as you said. I played in that game. I think we were playing the Buffalo Bills, as a matter of fact. But yeah, I don't know if he actually did control the button, but I tell you, he controlled a lot of buttons over the years when he was broadcasting. We sure miss him.
There's no doubt about that. So in hurry-up mode, it's Nelson. That'll be a gain of 5. And again, 2 timeouts remaining for the Bills. Boy, it was just great to hear that clip from John Madden. Been too long.
Well, it sure has. I think I speak for a lot of fans out there that miss hearing him each week.
Too tall for Jackson, 3rd down. You know, you brought up earlier about, Stevie Johnson being a 7th-round draft pick. I don't know about you, Troy. I don't know anything about personnel. It's hard to believe that David Nelson, coming out of the University of Florida, that threw the ball all over the field, goes as an undrafted free agent coming out of college.
Boy, he certainly had a breakout season last year. First 2 years, just 12 catches. Last year, 82 of them, and then over 1,000 yards receiving.
First down for Johnson.
When you talk about this group, I don't know that I've ever seen a group of skill players, certainly the wide receiver position, with so few high draft picks. I mean, he's the only guy in that group, Stevie Johnson is, that was drafted, as you said, in the 7th round, and then everyone else is an undrafted guy. And like we were talking about with Ryan Fitzpatrick, not only being the guy this year, but Chan Gailey and the organization believing that he's the guy. They proved that to him this week with the new contract. But all of these wide receivers feel the same way also, that they're not just the bridge to somebody else, that this is the group, and that's the way Ryan Fitzpatrick wants it. As I said, he loves this group of players. And like I said, a bunch of no names, but they keep winning. They're gonna make a lot of names for themselves.
I really like the young Redskin receivers. They're getting a chance with all the injuries to Donald Jones and Marcus Easley and Roscoe Parrish with this Buffalo receiving corps. Blitz, catch, and big yardage ahead for Jackson. Inside the 30, and another big play, whether it's in the run game or here in the pass game, for Fred Jackson.
Boy, Fletcher came right up the middle. Nobody got a hat on him, and Fitzpatrick got pounded. You're going to see Fletcher, number 59. He shoots the gap, and as soon as he releases it, he takes a pretty big hit right there. Looked like it might have been on the shoulder, but he was certainly slow to get up, and he's being attended to right now. You know, he was just as he was throwing, and so they got him right underneath. It might have been right to the ribs there. It looked like, most quarterbacks, they wear the protective padding, you can even see it right here, the protective padding on Thigpen, and most quarterbacks wear it. My guess is that Ryan Fitzpatrick wears it as well, but you're exposed when you've got the right arm up and you're making the throw, and Fletcher's helmet came right underneath it, right to the rib cage area.
Well, Fitzpatrick will walk to the sideline. What would happen to Thigpen as he was thinking about getting ready to come in?
Doink.
That's a bad omen.
I'd rather have that hit than the one Fitzpatrick took.
Yeah. You're onto something there. So Thigpen will go to stay on the sideline. Looked like he was coming in, and Fitzpatrick apparently is good enough to get right back on the horse.
And here's that hit again on Ryan Fitzpatrick. As you see, just as he's delivering the ball, the helmet comes right underneath then into the body. A nice job by Fred Jackson. Like I said, I mean, this guy, he is having himself a really good year, and he's been a good player ever since he got here to Buffalo. We talked about his path to getting here, but man, each and every week you see this guy make people miss and make those kinds of runs, whether it's in the passing game or as a running back.
Smith on the screen, read beautifully, and again it was London Fletcher making a play. Well, they're out of timeouts. That clock continues to run. Fitzpatrick trying to get him to the line of scrimmage and spike the ball, which he will do. Nicely done.
Yeah, you think about it, in the Redskins.
Offside. Offense number 16. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down. There is no 10-second runoff as the foul did not stop the clock. 3rd down.
And so you think about that stop defensively by the Bills against the Redskins, the quick timeout by Chan Gailey to try to give his team an opportunity, and one big play there by Fred Jackson, and here they are.
He'll be 44 yards away for Ryan Lundell. He's a good one. He's only missed once all year. So first half dominated by the Bills. Stay tuned for the Visa halftime report coming up after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. 13-0 Buffalo at halftime. Set to begin a third quarter. Buffalo will get the football, leading 13-0. You can follow your favorite team all season long. Just go to iTunes.com/NFL. Well, some of the numbers from the first half. It could have really gotten ugly for the Redskins, but they got that interception in the end zone. Not much offensively.
No, it's a pretty bad offensive performance for the Redskins. About a third of their total yardage came on one pass play to Leonard Hankerson, and they haven't been able to run the ball, they haven't been able to throw the ball, and they haven't been able to protect that guy, John Beck.
Told you Buffalo came in with 4 sacks in 6 games. They sacked Beck 4 times in the first 30 minutes. Out to the 20 to start the second half, and let's check in with Pam Oliver.
Well, not a whole lot to feel good about for the Washington Redskins. I spoke to Mike Shanahan. What do you do? First of all, offensively, he said we just got to get in some sort of rhythm. Defensively, he said the good news is we got us a couple of turnovers. The bad news is we did nothing with them. Back to you.
Surprised they didn't ask Pam for some ideas. see what she suggested. That was tough. We talked about it. You don't want to belabor the point, but when you have the number of guys on the offensive side of the ball that they have that are not playing, it is tough. And they're playing against, again, a defense that had struggled so much. It was a tough first 30 minutes.
Jackson into the open field. Another big run for Fred Jackson, and he's finally hauled down at the 37-yard line.
Well, you're going to have Eric Wood and Chad Reinhardt right here in the middle. Watch the double team inside, and then Andy Levitre, he kicks out. That's a nice running lane right there for Fred Jackson. Nobody is near him. Doesn't get touched until he's about 15 yards down the field. When you've got an offense that is struggling the way that the Redskins are, then you really have to be able to rely on that defense if you're going to be able to stay in this game. Not a good start here for this Redskins defense either.
Watch over.
Give it to Jackson again. We alluded to his journey to be where he is now in his 5th year in the NFL, but you think coming out of college at Cole College in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, for 2 years, he didn't play down a football. He was a youth counselor. In 2005, he went to the indoor league, was a league MVP playing for the Sioux City Bandits. Went to NFL Europe for a league. Practice squad player in 06 for Buffalo. 07 gets a chance to play in the NFL and is a 1,000-yard rusher 2 years later.
Pretty amazing. The guy just had a lot of reasons to give up and not keep moving forward, but he didn't do that. A heck of a player.
Fletcher with another nice stop. We'll bring up 3rd down.
He's kind of made a name for himself everywhere he's been, though. Not the next level hasn't appreciated him wherever he's been. He's from Fort Worth, Texas, went to high school in Arlington, Texas. Lamar High School's put out some good players, but then he winds up going to Cole College because there weren't enough colleges giving him an opportunity. And then after a successful run there, he goes undrafted, but everywhere he's been, he's done well.
3rd down. Fitzpatrick steps up, and that is it a catch by Johnson? Looked like he may have bobbled that ball. They're saying it is a 1st down to the 24-yard line.
Well, we know how the first half ended with the Bills being able to get the ball and take it down with little time on the clock, come away with a field goal before the end of the first half. But then to get the ball here to start this second half and put together a drive like they are right now. Not that things weren't tough enough in that Redskins locker room, but it's about as demoralizing as it gets to come back out here in the second half optimistic and then have the Bills come right back and get right back down the field on you.
Gain of 2, 2nd and 8 for Buffalo in the NFC East. We told you earlier today the Giants fell behind early, but rallied to win. Going to 5-2. Dallas and Philadelphia collide later tonight in Philly.
This was a big game here for Washington. They had a chance a few weeks ago coming off of that bye when they hosted Philadelphia after a week's rest. 4 interceptions by Rex Grossman. They failed to win that game. I think that's been the turning point for this season. But this game here against a Bills team that had been struggling, it's a big game.
Jackson slips a couple of tackles. Is thrown down at the 15. He looks to be about a half a yard short of a 1st down.
I know Jim Haslett in visiting with him, he didn't feel that even though they'd given up a lot of yardage against the Eagles and then last week against Carolina, didn't feel they played all that poorly against the Eagles because they'd held them to 20 points. But last week, coming off their worst defensive performance last week against Carolina, in fact, Mike Shanahan didn't feel that they were prepared in some areas, spend more time on the defensive side of the ball this week.
Throw it on 3rd and a yard. Chandler, his 2nd touchdown of the game.
Well, they got man coverage with Scott Chandler, the tight end. London Fletcher, he takes a false step up And it was just enough then for Chandler to get a step on him and Fitzpatrick to lay it up. Seen Chandler, he's had a nice afternoon.
That ties the Bills' franchise record for touchdowns in a season by a tight end. This is only his 7th game of the year for Buffalo. But Chandler trying to rewrite the Bills' record books. Fitzpatrick finds him for a second time.
Today's game on Fox is sponsored by Southwest Airlines. Find our fares online only at southwest.com. By the new 2012 Jeep Grand Cherokee. By Lowe's. Lowe's, never stop improving. And by Bud Light, the official beer sponsor of the NFL. Here we go.
That must be what the Redskins feel like right about now.
Not exactly riding the bull at Gillies.
No, it's not. You were around for the heyday of Gillies, weren't you?
No, I wasn't.
Oh, come on. You were the original urban cowboy.
Heyday.
Brandon Banks will take a knee. Redskins will get it at the 20. They're looking for answers on the Washington sideline, including their main man in the middle. Well, still plenty of time in this game if the Redskins can, to quote Pam Oliver, who visited with Mike Shanahan at halftime, find some kind of rhythm on offense. London Fletcher finally cooling down a little bit over on that Redskins sideline. Very upset after that last touchdown. Terrain tries to bring it back the other way. Nice tackle by George Wilson.
You know, here's another look at the touchdown. You're going to see you got London Fletcher who takes the step up. You know, initially I thought maybe a little Ron Landry busted coverage right there, but it looked like he was in man coverage on Fred Jackson. And London Fletcher then was in coverage on Chandler that went for the touchdown. But, you know, obviously some real frustrations on both sides of the ball for the Redskins on that sideline.
Perhaps a free play. Catches made by the tight end Davis, just short of a first down. This is going to be against Buffalo.
Offside. Defense number 90. 5-yard penalty. Second down.
Well, they asked Mike Shanahan, would you rather have third down and less than a yard, or do you want second down and call it 4? He chose second and 4.
With only 3 first downs in this game, I think I would have taken 3rd and 1.
Nice throw and a nice catch by Jabbar Gaffney.
Yeah, that really was. I mean, they're able to get Beck out on the edge, but a well-thrown ball on the move and a nice catch here on the back end of it. A ball that he had to extend forward a little bit. Nice fingertip catch, and he's able to haul it in. And, you know, sometimes, you know, you talk about it as an offense that's struggling. That first down in a series is sometimes the hardest one to get. We'll see what they're able to do now on this possession.
Ready? Green attack.
Flag down. Terrain dropped right at the line of scrimmage by Wilson. I know when you were getting ready for this game, you liked what you saw from George Wilson.
Illegal formation. Offense. Number 83 was covered. 5-yard penalty. First down.
Yeah, hard not to like the way he's played. You know, he's got an interesting story in itself. You know, it's interesting to me because this is the first Buffalo Bills game that I've had a chance to broadcast in the 11 years of doing this. And so you start getting familiar with a team that you haven't seen. And, you know, each of these guys really has an interesting story. Here was a guy who was a wide receiver when he came to the Bills, and former coach Dick Duran asked him if he'd like to get on the field and play defensive back, and there he is.
a safety in 2007. There's a nice play by Johnson. It's interesting to note the first career start that Wilson ever had as a safety was in 2007, and in that game he returned an interception for a touchdown against Dallas.
Yeah, he said the third play of the game he intercepted Tony Romo there on Monday night, and coming into this game led the team in tackles, led the team in interceptions. He's one of those guys who's just always around the ball, and we had a chance to visit with him on Friday, and what a nice young man, and a guy who is going to be a good player for this team for a long time.
Fifth time Beck has been sacked today.
This is pretty amazing.
That's Chris Kelsey, who's back after missing the last couple of weeks with a calf injury.
A defense again that came in just with very little confidence because they just had not been able to slow anybody down, and that defensive front had been much maligned because they had been unable to get any pressure on the quarterback. And you talk about a game to build some confidence. They have taken it to this Redskins offense.
And the Redskins playing without their regular left guard, their regular left tackle. And just spiked into the ground to avoid another sack. Brian Scott all over Beck.
Yeah, Jarris Byrd, the other safety opposite of George Wilson, he sniffed it out and saw that he was in man coverage, and they were trying to run a screen pass there to Roy Halou, and just no chance. They are playing with some other guys, as we've talked about, but these guys are all professionals. It's their opportunity to show what they can do, not only at the wide receiver position, but along that offensive line as well.
Spiller from the 23. And a 7-yard return up to the 30. Lorenzo Alexander to drag him down.
Today's game is sponsored by Verizon. Get coverage of every NFL game on NFL Mobile. Call ** NFL from your Verizon phone to get NFL Mobile.
Canada's National Tower, built by the Canadian National Railway, a landmark, obviously a must-see attraction here. The tallest tower in the Western Hemisphere, 181 stories high. Bills flying high midway through the third quarter. They've dominated every category. Kevin Barnes is wrapped up around C.J. Spiller. Now, I know you were a big fan, Troy, of the movie Hangover. I mean, if you saw it, who wouldn't be? You brought up Ryan Fitzpatrick's beard a little bit earlier. Zach Galifianakis and Ryan Fitzpatrick. They both got it going on.
Both have good beards, yeah. And they're both pretty funny guys, Of course, we know about Galifianakis, but Ryan Fitzpatrick, he had us laughing pretty good on Friday.
Pass. You got to go. Pass 5-1. Pass 5-1.
Nice play in the backfield. It's reminiscent of the first play of the game made by Ryan Kerrigan.
That's one of the few times they've been able to corral Fred Jackson, who had 100 yards rushing before he just lost 4 yards on that play.
They like Kerrigan, like Arakpo, a college defensive end. They've converted into a linebacker here in the pro level. That's Nelson well short of the first down. So for the first time in a long while, the Bills will punt.
Well, we had talked about how good Washington had been defensively getting off the field on third down. The Bills in this ballgame overall have been very good, and they were finally able to force a 3rd and long, and the Bills unable to convert on that last play.
Brandon Banks Banks, who is so good in the return game the early part of last year, has been pretty quiet so far this season. Looking to make a little noise right here. Nice return right at midfield. $20-0 Buffalo in front. Take a look at the offensive leaders for the Redskins, and really not much to talk about.
No, I don't think any of them are real proud of those numbers.
Although again, we still have a long way to go, and the Redskins start this drive, and they're looking for 6 in a hurry to Armstrong. Great coverage by Drayton Florence.
Well, Anthony Armstrong, he's the one guy who can really get down the field for him. He's coming off an injury a few weeks ago, played last week, but they just have been unable. You know, they've taken a couple shots now down the field to him. We saw it there in the first half when they tried taking a deep shot to the post. Pretty good coverage there, and nice coverage on him on that play.
Sack for Buffalo. This one by Spencer Johnson, his second of the year.
You know, overall, it looked like John Beck had decent protection initially, but you're going to see the route here. They go with a stack look, and you know, it's just a slow developing route down the field in order to try to wait and let that develop, and that's what Beck is doing. And rather than realize, hey, it's not happening fast enough, I'm going to come to the quick crossing route, then Spencer Johnson was able to get there and make a play.
Hit 12 times, knocked down 8 times, sacked 6 times. 3rd and forever. And they get about 16 yards of it back. The question is now down 20-0. I mean, Mike Shanahan, you figure, has to go for it here.
Yeah, for where they are on the field, and the punt team started to run out, and the sidelines called them back over, and so yeah, they're going to go for it and see if they can't get something going. I think this is the right thing to do. They haven't been able to do anything yet offensively, and see if they can't convert here on 4th down.
3 of 5 on 4th downs this year are the Redskins. Buffalo will take over. That's a borderline whether to go as a sack, but Darius made the play to stop the Washington drive. Well, you see Beck sitting next to Kyle Shanahan, and then their starter up until 2 weeks ago, Rex Grossman.
They're looking at the pictures, trying to figure out what they can do. I tell you, it's hard calling plays when you're not getting protection and then you're not getting anybody open down the field. I mean, there's really not a lot John Beck can do.
Jackson, maybe for a yard. Well, you saw the average yards per play today. Staggering.
Here's that 4th down play that I was talking about, and you're going to see the coverage down the field. I mean, there's just nowhere for Beck to throw the football. There's 4 guys in the route to the front side where he was looking, and nobody gets any separation, and then they run a twist on the defensive front, which caught left guard Will Montgomery, and then he gets shoved right back into Beck's face. And it's been like that throughout this game for Beck.
Fitzpatrick is sacked by Kedrick Bolston. His 2nd sack of the year. We'll get coverage of every NFL game on NFL Mobile. You can call ** NFL to get NFL action right on your phone. Chandler, a couple of touchdown receptions today. He'll step off the field on a 3rd and 14. Fitzpatrick has stayed relatively clean here today.
Ram.
Outside of that last sack, the first of the game, and Smith up to the 48, short of a first down, and again Buffalo punts.
I think you look at the way this second half has unfolded, at least after the first possession by Buffalo, the Redskins defensively have at least been able to make a couple stops, and now it's just going to be really on the offense as to whether or not they're going to be able to get anything figured out and get back into this ball game.
You know, the Redskins have already gone on record as saying when they made the change at quarterback. They remember in the Philadelphia game, Beck came on to replace Grossman, and that one will bounce into the end zone. And then Beck got the start last week, and you know the Redskins said at the time, Troy, that Beck is their guy for the rest of the year, but that doesn't always necessarily mean he's the rest of a game guy. I mean, the beating he's taken today, you know, do you start thinking about maybe making a changes for the remainder of the game?
No, I don't think so. I think they're going to stick with John Beck. I don't know. It wouldn't matter who you put out there right now as to how the outcome of this game is going to go. But I think that when I asked Kyle Shanahan the other day, how do you effectively evaluate John Beck when you've got so many injured guys? And I understand it. They know they take that into consideration. They feel like they can effectively evaluate him. I'm not so sure. I mean, when you're not given a chance to even with protection or guys getting open for you.
Gaffney up to the 25. Boy, and another hit on Beck. That time from Dewan Edwards.
Well, and you're talking about a guy who hasn't played a lot of football in the National Football League either, so he's not able to draw upon a lot of successes, as you see. I mean, he's taking a lot of hits in this game, as we've seen, and to continue to stand in the pocket, I've admired the way he's handled everything, to be quite honest with you.
Hankerson looking for a flag that doesn't come. Coverage by Bird. Well, really pretty much from the start. Beck has been hit and hit hard.
And I think coming in, I mean, everyone understands what you have, but because they were playing the Bills, again, a defense that had been struggling so much, you feel like, okay, well, we'll be able to do some things and we'll be okay. And I don't think the Redskins, or how could you have anticipated the kind of punishment that they've been able to put on Beck?
7 sacks in the game. Nice throw there. Very nice throw. And the catch is made by Terrence Austin for a first down.
Well, it was a great throw, and it was, you watch him as he drops back, and he showed confidence that he was going to have protection. And again, that's not easy to do. As a guy who's played the position, when you've been hit that many times, to trust protection in the middle and set up and deliver a good ball like that, sometimes that's hard to do late in the ball game, and Beck did it.
Closing in on the end of the third quarter. There's still a long way to go in this game. I mean, it's a game, obviously, that has been dominated by the Bills. As that pass is incomplete, 31 seconds left.
Well, what we have seen in the NFL, not just this year and other years, but more so this year, how many times the Bills have been a part of these type of games. How many times do you see a 20-point lead dwindle that fast? You get a quick score, and it's amazing how quickly a team can get right back into it. And I don't know what the numbers show, but I've seen more comeback wins this year than I can remember in any other season.
Well, we saw a number of them in the early games today as Terrain makes a catch and he's dropped in midfield. You talk about weeks 2 and 3. You mentioned the Bills, first team in NFL history to win back-to-back games after trailing by 18 points or more. Those were wins over Oakland, and the shocking win coming back from 21-0 down against New England. So a third down coming up for the Redskins. A full quarter left to play. 20-0 Bills. Fox NFL Sunday returns after these messages and a word from your local Fox station. Third down and 5 for the Redskins at midfield as we begin the fourth quarter. And they're coming after Beck again. He gets it away, and it's intercepted by George Wilson. His fourth of the year. Springs back to his feet and brings it back to midfield.
Well, man coverage by George Wilson. A little contact at the top of that route. Looked like they might have been able to call him for pass interference, as you're going to see as he releases off the line of scrimmage right at the top. But he undercuts it, gets a hand on it. And as I was talking about, he's just got a knack for playing the ball. Now, he was a wide receiver, as I mentioned, and so he's got unbelievable ball skills. Came into the game leading the team in interceptions, and he gets himself another one.
For Wilson, his fourth interception in the last 5 games. You know, we brought up earlier Wilson making a position change from wide receiver to safety back in 2007. All of that, of course, was preceded by the fact that he was signed, cut by Detroit before the Bills picked him up, put him on a practice squad. 5-yard pickup by Jackson. Let's check in with Kurt Menefee in Los Angeles.
Tim Tebow trying to lead the Broncos to a comeback today against Detroit. Not in this case. Cliff Averill strips him, scoops it. 24 yards later, it's a touchdown and another big blowout for the Lions right now. 31-3. They lead it in the third quarter. Tom, Troy, and Pam.
Of course, there's still a fourth quarter in that game, as you said to me, Troy, in a break.
That's right. Tebow doesn't get going until the fourth.
That was certainly the case last week against Miami.
Well, that's what I said last week, you know.
And now Fitzpatrick sacked on a second down throw by Stephen Bowen.
You know, it was a pretty nice win last week by Denver and Tebow with that comeback. But if you're not playing the Dolphins and you play that poorly for 55 minutes, you're down by a lot more than 2 scores. And that's what's kind of happened in that game.
Wilson, the interception a moment ago. And now 3rd and 9.
Ram. Hard base. Leo.
Timeout, Buffalo.
Today's game is sponsored by Dr. Pepper. With 23 flavors, Dr. Pepper is always one of a kind. By Windows 7. And by Chevrolet and their award-winning cars, trucks, and crossovers.
Welcome back to Toronto, a home game for the Buffalo Bills. And they're trying to win in their home away from home, if you will, for the first time since starting to play regular season and some preseason games here back in 2008. Blitz coming. Fitzpatrick dumps it off to Jackson. He has a first down and more to the 25. Another huge offensive day for Fred Jackson.
Well, you heard Ryan Fitzpatrick yelling Rex, 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 which gets Fred Jackson to work to his right. You're going to see him then cross the formation. Initially, I thought that he was going to protect, but he leaks out, and Fitzpatrick then knows immediately where he's going to be. The Redskins also anticipated that Jackson was going to be in protection, and so they just let him go, and that's why they were able to get the big gain.
It's 175 yards from scrimmage in the game for Jackson. 102 rushing and 73 passing. They play fake it to him, and a nice pickup on first down by Fitzpatrick.
Got a lot of things working right now when you're able to run the ball the way they have with Fred Jackson. This is a really nice play fake. See him extend the ball, and with the hand you get everybody flowing that way. They just weren't unable to get anybody open. But you know, right now Buffalo, of course, to open up this second half, they had the nice drive. They really hadn't done much until this possession here offensively.
Yeah, they had 80 yards leading to the Chandler touchdown the first drive of the half. And then a total of only 8 more, spanning 2 drives before this one. Jackson to the 16. For Jackson today, his 5th 100-yard rushing game of the season. He's one of only 2 backs in the NFL averaging over 100 yards rushing per game. He has the 2nd most rushing yards in the league, 2nd best rushing average, and the 2nd most yards from scrimmage in the NFL.
Well, he's certainly going to benefit by having Chan Gailey calling the plays, because I can tell you that any team that Chan Gailey has called plays for, they run the ball very, very well.
15.
Well, they had a wildcat formation and started too early on the right side of the line.
Ball start. Offense, number 60. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
You know, that's what happens. You bring in Brad Smith as the wildcat, and then, you know, Craig Urbick, the right guard, he jumps off sides because the cadence is a little bit different. Not that they don't work on it. I guess my point is I don't like the wildcat. I saw it the one year where the Dolphins had some success with it with Ronnie Brown, and I just don't get it. I don't see enough production from it, whether it's the Bills or anyone else, that why anyone continues to even tinker with it is beyond me.
I'm with you, especially on a 3rd and 2 when you're running the ball, you know, at will here. But on a 3rd and 6, you give it to Jackson, which may have been the call on 3rd and 2. Flags all over the place. And the Bills will get backed up again.
Illegal shift. Offense, 2 men moving prior to the snap, did not reset. 5-yard penalty. 3rd down.
I used to tell coaches, hey, if you're going to pull me on 3rd down for a wildcat look, there was some talk about it when I was playing, then that guy better be prepared to play on 1st and 2nd down too, because I'm heading to the shower.
And your response to that was what? Or their response to that was what?
Well, we didn't run the wildcat.
You were going to put Dion in for that?
Inside.
Him among others.
3rd and 11. Jackson nearly lost the football but hung on. The first man who slowed him down was Cofield. So a couple of penalties on what was originally a 3rd down and less than 2 forces a field goal unit out.
Boy, right on the ball, Rocky McIntosh. That's a great job by Fred Jackson hanging on to. You know, you talk about a guy that, you know, whether you fumble or not, but there was nothing he could do about that one, but a good job of recovering it. And
44-yard field goal try. Lindell a perfect 2 for 2 today. And a little draw off the upright and no good. He doesn't miss very many of those. It has a different sound north of the border. Air's a little thinner. Without a doubt, the roughest game so far this season for Redskins head coach Mike Shanahan. Yes, they had lost 2 in a row coming in. A tight one to Philadelphia. And the Panthers were very impressive, especially on offense last week, but trying to play through so many injuries. Trailing 20-0 on a catch by Halou.
what a nice play by George Wilson. We saw him with the interception that he had, but they had that blocked up pretty good on the outside. You see him, here he is, he takes on the blocker, Chris Chester, the right guard, and then he's still able to make a play. And you know, for again a guy who was a wide receiver to be able to be as physical as he is in the run game and making tackles, really impressive.
Halou again, and that's a first down. Alou had a great career at the University of Nebraska. I think he's got a chance to be a nice player for the Redskins.
Well, they weren't real sure that he would be an effective blocker, and so if you can't do that, how good are you going to be, you know, as a third down back? But he's improved dramatically from when they first picked him up. I'm surprised the Redskins aren't in a little bit more of a hurry-up mode.
That is another first down to the 38 on the catch by Davis.
You know, even now, you know, you get the big play there, first down. You'd think they'd go to a no-huddle situation down 3 scores, but they're not. They're huddling up, and there's no real urgency about them either.
Very hard to understand. Contact down the field. The receiver was tripped up. Interception made by Bird. Spins his way out of a tackle and is up to the 23. A late flag comes in. No other flags on the play, so the interception will stand. Looked like Dante Stallworth was either knocked down or just tripped.
I couldn't tell. It was Terrence.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, grasping a helmet opening, passing team number 83. 15-yard penalty added to the end of the play. First down, timeout.
Tom, I couldn't see if there was contact down the field or not. Terrence McGee was the guy in coverage, but you're right. Stallworth goes to the ground, but I don't know what exactly caused it.
Today's game is sponsored by Chevrolet and their award-winning cars, trucks, and crossovers.
$20-0 with 7:48 to play.
8-9.
Bills defense, which had 4 sacks in 6 games, 7 of them here today.
Well, here's the interception, and you're going to see Dante Stallworth. He just trips. You know, there's no contact. They don't tie up their feet with Terrence McGee, and then the interception, Jarris Bird over the top. And you know, if he doesn't fall down, he's probably got a shot. So he's going to be contested by Bird, but then the penalty by Fred Davis getting hold of the face mask on the tackle. Just one of those days for John Beck. I mean, he's anticipating, you know, trying to get something going, throw it down the middle, and then his receiver falls down. How's that Wildcat working?
You're the guy that was talking it up the other day. Let's send it back to Kurt Menefee.
Well, the Lions don't need the Wildcat because they've got Matthew Stafford at quarterback and Calvin Johnson at wideout. The two hook up for a 56-yard touchdown. 3 touchdown passes for Stafford on the day, and they're rolling over Denver 38-3 late in the third quarter. Tom Troy Bam.
1.
Well, you're looking at NFC North. Green Bay, of course, the only remaining unbeaten. Detroit trying to get a win after losing a couple of games in a row.
I wonder what that handshake will be like this week with Schwartz and John Fox.
Catch made by Johnson, and that's a first down to the 44-yard line. Of course, Jim Harbaugh trying to send the 49ers to a 6-1 start. At last check, they had a lead in their game against Cleveland.
Yeah, off to quite a start out there in San Francisco. What a nice throw here by Ryan Fitzpatrick, and puts it right on Stevie Johnson. You know, of course, the Bills, they would just soon, I'd be surprised if they don't just run it on 1st and 2nd down as they did the last time, and then try to convert on 3rd down with a throw if necessary. The Redskins haven't shown that they want to extend this game.
There's that Wildcat formation again. Smith stopped at the 37. Well, Troy, you thought the Wildcat and the Simpsons have always had a lot in common. Well, later tonight on Fox, an all-new Treehouse of Horror finally here. Halloween tradition lives on. 4 terrifying tales. You'll absolutely love it. The Simpsons all-new Treehouse of Horror tonight, 8 Eastern, 7 Central on Fox. Will you be dressing up out with the girls tomorrow?
I was going to ask you if you got your costume all picked out. Nice of you to wear it into the booth today.
I can see that coming from a mile away. Are you dressing up tomorrow?
I haven't decided yet.
All right. Jackson inside the 30-yard line. Under the 5-minute mark. Producer of our game today, Richie Zions. Our director is Rich Russo. The associate directors, Jake Jolivet and Rich Gross. Our broadcast associates, Bentley Elliott and Alex Olson. Our technical producer, Dave Hill. Our technical director, Colby Bourgeois. I'd like to thank Ben Alltop for all the work and making us feel at home here in the booth. Our lead audio man, Fred Aldis. Nice to be back with him again, and we certainly have our thoughts and prayers with his wife, Beverly. She's getting ready to wipe out cancer, and Troy can't thank you enough for, allowing me to sit in here and keep the seat warm for your regular partner, Joe Buck, over these last 4 weeks. You and Joe will be back together again after he's coming off the great World Series. You guys will be in New England next weekend, but 3 years in a row now we've had a chance to do this, and thanks for everything. It's been a ball.
It has been. Joe had a nice 4-week run, didn't he? That was a nice series, and congratulations to the St. Louis Cardinals on yet another world championship, and Tony La Russa. Job well done.
Smith and a Wildcat again.
I think right now they're just trying to preserve Fred Jackson, and get somebody else out there taking some hits.
Oh, great day for Jackson. 119 rushing yards, 73 receiving yards, 20-0 Buffalo. $20-0 Buffalo. 3:34 remaining. The Redskins spending their first time out, leading up to this 3rd down and 6. Jackson for a yard. Well, the Redskins may get the football back if Buffalo is going to send out the field goal unit. Mike Shanahan has never had a team shut out in 267 games as a head coach.
Well, I mean, you think about it, if they're struggling against this defense, as many problems as they had, the Buffalo Bills that is, coming into this game, what's it going to look like for the Redskins going forward? Because a number of these players are not coming back. The Tim Hightower, he's not coming back. Chris Cooley, he's not coming back. Santana Moss, he's going to be out for a while longer.
Lichtensteiger not coming back.
I mean, so it's not looking real good for this Redskins team.
Their defense has been okay, though, at times. I mean, not the entire game. This is very similar to the Philadelphia game. In some ways, they allowed 20 points, but nothing in the second half. 23 today against a team averaging 31 points per game. Of course, the Redskins have struggled here in recent memory, going back to Norv Turner. After 22 games, only 5 wins. Of course, they didn't wait around long enough for Marty Schottenheimer. Steve Spurrier came in, was 2 games under the same mark. Likewise, in a second go-round for the legendary Joe Gibbs. Jim Zorn, identical after 22 with Spurrier and Gibbs. And Shanahan at 9-13. That would go to 9-14 after 23. It looks like today.
You go back and you think about those coaches that Daniel Snyder has fired, and then the ones that he has hired. Looking back on it a little bit, as I said earlier in the game about Jerry Jones saying he might have made a big mistake when he let Chan Gailey go after just 2 years. How about Daniel Snyder letting Marty Schottenheimer go after 1 year, when maybe that was the best coaching job he had done, to bring that team back to finish 8-8. And I think the one thing you gather from all those moves that have been made is it goes beyond just the head coach. I mean, they've got to continue to get quality players out there on the field, and until they start building this team through the draft, they're going to have problems.
There's been a lot of trickle down in a lot of areas in that Redskins franchise. Brandon Banks stepped out of bounds at the 24. We look ahead to the NFL on Fox, a doubleheader weekend next Sunday. Giants and the Patriots in America's Game of the Week, the back end of our doubleheader. 49ers will be in Washington, Seahawks in Dallas. Buccaneers and Saints, that'll be a good game.
Yeah, I would think the Saints will go into that one a little upset.
Oh boy. For those of you that didn't hear the word, they were whacked today in St. Louis. I mean, they were never really in the game. Clock running under 3:10.
Just at the end of that play, Beck takes it to the helmet. I'm surprised he didn't have a call there. You know, you've got the referee who stands back there and pretty much does nothing other than look at the quarterback, and yet they missed that to the helmet.
Beck rolling, and rather than step out of bounds, he is thrown to the deck by Darius. I would imagine he's going to be a very sore young man tomorrow morning.
I was going to say, I think he'll be spending the evening in the hot tub when he gets back home. And you know, obviously, I think John Beck will be the first to tell you there's going to be areas after this ball game that he'll look at and think that he could have done a little bit better. But I go back to my point. I don't know that it would have made much difference who was quarterback in this team today. He wasn't given a lot of support, not by the offensive line nor by these receivers.
Third down, and Davis good enough for a first down to the 35. Clock will close in on a 2-minute warning. We'll see if they can get off a snap before it gets there.
Well, now they're in the no huddle.
They don't get it off. It's going to be a long night for a lot of Washington Redskins. What a good one he was. A great one. The Hall of Famer Jim Kelly.
Well,
inducted into the Hall of Fame in 2002.
The old K gun that he ran in Buffalo. And boy, they had some prolific offenses when he was playing. One of the greats. Now he's a big hunter.
Encroachment, defense number 72. 5-yard penalty, first down.
Of course, you remember January the 26th of 1992, the Redskins and the Bills, Super Bowl 26 in Minneapolis. Redskins took a 24-0 lead, 16 seconds into the third quarter. Mark Rypien, the MVP. Redskins getting their third Super Bowl title.
The Bills fans want to thank you for reminding them of that game.
I would never do that to a Bills fan. I felt so bad. I mean, there has to be a winner and there has to be a loser, but because you lost doesn't make you a loser. And certainly those Buffalo Bills teams should never be labeled losers in any way, shape, or form.
No doubt. Really great teams, and you know, no one will truly appreciate what those teams did. 4 consecutive Super Bowl appearances.
Catch made down to the 17-yard line by Davis. Of course, in that backfield, the great Thurman Thomas, Hall of Fame inductee a year after Jim Kelly.
Yeah, in fact, both of those guys, you know, live in the Buffalo area. And this morning, as I was getting ready to head to the stadium, I was watching the Thurman Thomas show on TV. So both of those guys doing really well.
Not going to step out of bounds.
Just a little confused by what I've seen here in the fourth quarter. With 8 minutes to play, down 20 points, they were in no hurry, and then with 2 minutes to play, they go to a no huddle. I think somebody told him about that graphic, saying that Mike Shanahan's never gone scoreless in a game as a head coach.
Well, they're knocking on the door, trying to keep that record alive. Broken up in the end zone. Nice closing play defensively made by McKelvin.
Well, we'll get an idea as to how important that is to Mike Shanahan if they fail to convert here on third down, whether or not they go for it and try to come away with a touchdown, or whether they settle for a field goal, which would be, either way, would be relatively meaningless.
For Shanahan led the Denver Broncos back-to-back Super Bowls. John Elway at the helm. As Beck is sacked again. Kirk Morrison got him this time. 9th sack, and that ties the most in team history, going all the way back to 1978, and that was against the St. Louis Football Cardinals.
You know, this Chris Chester, you're going to see the right guard, number 66. He just doesn't pass it off. You're going to see that they run a game up front, and then he doesn't help come off, and they don't squeeze it, and they're unable to protect it. Some of that's understandable because you've got guys working alongside different players. Ryan Cook, of course, at center, making his second NFL start, all of those things. But you can't put all of that on the fact that these are guys that haven't played alongside each other, because one-on-one they've been beaten enough times here in this game as well.
4th and 12, one final chance. And Beck looking to the back of the end zone, a jump ball, and it's incomplete. So it looks as though for the first time in Mike Shanahan's career as a head coach, his team will be shut out in a game.
This is one of those games that sometimes I think that you don't even show them on Monday. These guys will come in tomorrow, and it's about as bad an offensive day as you're going to see. And I know that whenever I was a part of a game like that, I'd go in and ask the coaches, hey, is there any way we can just bypass the film and get ready for next game?
So this is going to take care of this. Bills are going to go to 5-2.
Certainly a nice win. You know, you consider what they have ahead of them. They've got the New York Jets twice in the next 4 games that they play, and it's a nice start for them. They needed a win like this here in Toronto against a team that had been struggling, and a dominant performance by Chan Gailey and that squad.
So congratulations to the Bills. You certainly have to feel for Shanahan and the Redskins with all the injuries. 23-0. Our final. We'll be back with more from Toronto. You're watching the NFL on